A sudden move, Mahendra Singh Dhoni today announced his retirement from Test cricket, paving the way for Virat Kohli to take over as India's Test captain. The decision comes after India lost the ongoing Test series in Australia after drawing the third Test. Dhoni's sudden exit from the Test scene has raised many questions, including the dressing room wranglings between some of the top players.
His retirement from Tests will also have a big impact on Brand Dhoni, valued at around 13 crore rupees a year. Interestingly, Dhoni's loss could be Kohli's gain, who's already a big hit on the ad world.
देखिए, आज तीसरे टेस्ट मैच समाप्त होने के बाद धोनी ने संजय पटेल जी को फ़ोन किया और अपनी इच्छा जाहिर की कि वो टेस्ट क्रिकेट से संन्यास लेना चाहते हैं एंड बीसीसीआई हैज़ रिस्पेक्टेड हिज व्यूज़। एक अच्छे खिलाड़ी के रूप में और टेस्ट कैप्टन जो उनका करियर रहा है, मेरे ख्याल से अच्छा परफॉर्मेंस उन्होंने जताया टेस्ट क्रिकेट में और भारत को जो नंबर 1 टेस्ट रैंकिंग जो मिली उनके अंडर, वो मेरे ख्याल से सबसे महत्वपूर्ण उनका एक योगदान रहा इंडियन क्रिकेट के लिए।
Mahendra Singh Dhoni is a great cricketer. He's an icon, an inspiration for the youth of this country. From humble beginnings, with a strong determination and willpower, he's reached where he has today. And he continues to play a certain format of cricket, and we all wish him the best for that.
उनको रिटायर होना था टेस्ट क्रिकेट से, तो कप्तानी छोड़नी थी, तो कप्तानी छोड़ के एक प्लेयर के नाते खेलते हो। एक टेस्ट मैच बाकी थी तो टीम के लिए अच्छा रहता, क्योंकि विराट कोहली भी यंग है, अभी कप्तानी कर रहे हैं और एक सीनियर कप्तान टीम में रहे तो काफ़ी फ़ायदा हो सकता है टीम के लिए और कप्तान के लिए भी।
Let's get you two experts on board, Ayaz Memon and Cricket Expert and Shailendra Singh, who's the Joint Managing Director of Percept. They both join us right here on ET Now. Thanks very much for being with us. Mr. Memon, let me throw the first question to you. The timing of this decision in the middle of a series that's ongoing, is this a good decision? Was it really on expected lines, you believe?
Well, I think that, this has been a stunning kind of a day. I mean, the match itself, the Melbourne Test match, had enough twists and turns in it on the last day. Though it was a drawn test match, but this coming shortly after has kind of pulled the rug from under everybody's feet. While at the back of my mind, I had this feeling that Dhoni's career is coming towards the close. I really didn't, to be honest, expect it so suddenly and in the middle of a series. Having said that, I think now when I rationalize a few hours later that perhaps the timing is just right, because it gives Kohli enough time to prepare himself. It gives Dhoni enough time to move aside from the job and responsibility of leading the, being in charge of everyday affairs and focusing on the World Cup. So hopefully he'll have a great World Cup.
Shailendra, comment on this. What do you make of the timing of the decision in the middle of a series? Is it a good decision, you think? Was it expected?
Well, I think, the timing could have been a bit controversial, but the fact of the matter is that I think Dhoni's career and his current position is a bit controversial and compromised, specifically keeping in mind Mr. Srinivasan and the conflict of interest issue. Also, the whole Supreme Court investigation has been playing on his mind for a long time. So I think it's finally, something that he should have done maybe 6-7 months ago, because he knows the fact that he has serious issues of conflict of interest, as well as there is a possible hint at his name being part of the investigation, and those things could really hurt him. So I think the decision is something which is very, again, calculative, because Dhoni is, a pretty sort of a thinking captain. So he's thought this through, and, better late than ever.
Right. Ayaz, on the face of it, the reason he's quit is because of the burden of managing captaincy in all 3 formats. He indicated that as well 2 years back in Australia. Was the burden of managing captaincy in all 3 formats too much for him to handle?
Increasingly so. I think the 3 formats, and he insisted on playing all 3. There was a time in 2011-12 when the Indian team was in Australia, where he had actually hinted, more than hinted, he had said that he might, after a year, maybe a year and a half, pull out of one format. That didn't happen. It's been almost 3 years. So there is a toll that he's a wicket keeper, he's a batsman, he's also a captain across all formats. That takes its toll on the mind as well as the body, and more so the mind. I think that the bandwidth that we saw Dhoni, which he had, say even 4, 5, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, just doesn't exist. He's been letting things meander in test match cricket. There's been so much criticism, mounting criticism about his tactics or the lack of it in test cricket, not in ODIs, which I think somewhere must have kind of forced his hand now.
But Mr. Memon, very quickly, is this good news for Indian Test team? Is Virat Kohli really ready to take on the reins? Is he ready to be captain of Team India?
Well, I think Virat Kohli is ready for captaincy. Whether it's a good thing or not for Indian cricket, with Dhoni's departure, because Dhoni is a very major influence even as a cricketer, remains to be seen. Because India are not playing Test cricket for another 7, 8, 9, 10 months maybe. So it's a long way off. What Kohli will get is another Test match, and then of course he goes back to being vice captain for the World Cup and whatever else is there before the next Test series. But mentally it allows Kohli to start preparing for his campaign. He starts talking to the players differently, he starts reacting with administrators differently. His whole mindset and his worldview about the game and about himself is going to change, which is why I think it's a big advantage for Virat Kohli.
But Shailendra, if I may throw this to you, and this is particularly coming from the fact that Sachin Tendulkar is gone and now of course MS Dhoni hangs up his boots. Do you see an impact on cricket viewership as a whole in this country, especially given there is interest in other sports as well that's gradually taking ground?
I don't think his brand value by sort of getting out of Test cricket is going to get affected. I think the brands like to connect with athletes that are visible and in the game and in the format that is really being consumed by consumers. So I think the One Day International and the World Cup around the corner and the T20 format is going to keep Brand Dhoni exactly where he is and give him the money and the success that he wants. But if his name comes up in the Supreme Court investigation, oh my God, that's going to be a different ball game altogether, because he's the most respected and celebrated athlete. And if he gets linked to the controversy of Mr. Srinivasan and the rest, that ain't going to be cool. And you could see the brand and his economic potential and strength crash overnight if that does happen with Mr. Dhoni.
Right. Shailendra, a quick word also on how is all this going to impact his brand value in terms of, endorsements? How do you see that getting impacted?
I've worked with a lot of athletes in my life, and I think it's very crucial for athletes to realize that they will have a period when they work hard to get to the peak. And you must realize when you get to the peak, please speak to your coach, mentors, guides, and they will tell you that once you are at 33,000 feet, the only way is to stay there or go down. Sooner or later you will go down, because if you go higher, you won't survive. If you go lower, it's going to affect your brand. So it's very dangerous and difficult to take a call. But when you're at your peak, plan your getaway. Plan to leave your career and your brand at that altitude. And guess what? You will remain at that altitude for the rest of your life. But greed is a very important player, at least in our, scenario of sports. And the greed gets the better of most athletes, and they stick around, and they linger their careers till a sort of a fag dying end, and then they get off the ship. So in a way, I welcome Dhoni's decision to get off the captaincy of Test cricket. Obviously, not so much in the middle of an Australian series. I don't think that works.
As I'll let you have the last word, and this is the question that I did put forward to Shailendra there, that the top notch of Indian cricket, or the creme de la creme that was called, Sachin Tendulkar gone, MS Dhoni decides to hang up his boots. Does this impact cricket viewership in India? What's your assessment?
But there is bound to be an impact, because Dhoni has been, to my mind, the most influential cricketer in India after Sachin, over the last 10 years. And remember, Sachin came from a major test playing centre, which was Mumbai. He was in many ways the chosen child. He was to the manner born. So everything about Tendulkar was geared towards making him a great cricketer, and he became one. In Dhoni's case, he was a rank outsider. He came from the boondocks. He just descended, like an alien on Indian cricket, and by a stroke of luck a little, but a lot more by sheer dint of effort, he became India captain. And he became a massively successful captain at least between 2007 and 2011-12. After that, he's been on the back foot, so to speak, and try hard as he did, he's not been able to lift the Indian team out of, the despair and the mediocrity that they found themselves in Test cricket playing overseas.
Ayaz and Shailendra, thank you so much for joining in now with that quick perspective.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.